Hi there Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video, and welcome to episode 112 of Ask Boss Bounty. This is the weekly series that drops every Sunday where you ask me questions in the comment section below, and each week I do my very best to answer them for you. So if you do have a question for next week's episode, please leave it in the comment section below and hopefully you will be featured next week. I did just want to bring up a couple of things before we do get onto this week's questions. And the first thing is that yesterday I was a guest on a live stream, and that live stream was hosted by John Miko, who is the admin of the Vintage Collection Facebook group with over 15,000 members. Also on that live stream was Jason from Yakface and Chris from Bantha Skull, so it's an awesome chat. And I will leave a link to that live stream in the description below if you want to check that out. The second thing I wanted to mention is that my friends over at the SWTVC on Instagram group are currently gathering data for their March Madness event, which of course happens in March. But at the moment, if you head over to their Instagram, I will leave a link in the description below for that as well. They are doing their top 25 figures. So you have to list your top 25 most wanted vintage collection figures, and then they'll accumulate all of that data for the bracket in the March Madness. So it's awesome. We had a great time of it last year, and a lot of those figures ended up getting made. I'm not saying that, you know, Hasbro took notice of that and made sure that those figures were being made, but at the end of the day, it's a good indicator for Hasbro, and a lot of those figures were probably in production already. But as I mentioned, it's good for the community to sort of voice their opinions on which figures they want, and it's a lot of fun as well. So be sure to head over to the SWTVC guys on Instagram and put forward your top 25 most wanted figures. Alright then, with all that being said, if you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to drop a like down below because it does really help the video and the channel. And if you are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe. We are so close to 20,000. I think I'm about 650 away, which sounds a lot, but you know, that could be achieved within a month. So fingers crossed for that. That'll be absolutely awesome. I'm sure when I do hit 20,000, there'll be the usual giveaways and celebratory live streams and all that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to doing all that kind of stuff in the near future. So anyway, straight on to the first question. Channel member Jeremy Carvalho says, "Hi boss, question for next week. I was wondering where all the New Hope figures are for the card backs because we haven't seen any releases recently at all. So maybe I missed something, but yeah, have a great day." So I think you're saying that basically we haven't had any figures recently from A New Hope, and that, I guess that's kind of true. I think the last one was maybe the Death Star droid, and I think we also had Zutton last year as well. And unfortunately, I think 2022, that sort of thing may be a little bit scarce with all the things that are coming out with the Book of Boba Fett, with Obi-Wan, with Andor, and various other things that they have to cover. I'm sure we're going to get some Clone Wars figures. Some of those were in the pipeline, for example. I think, you know, the OT may have to take a back seat in 2022. That's not to say that we won't get any at all, because you never know, but you know, in terms of what we got last year, that is not going to happen this year. Chad Plouffe says, "Hi Tim, hope your wife is doing better. Question for the show. Any idea as to why you think they haven't gotten to the blurg in either scale yet? I've been trying to think of a reason why they haven't released it and I can't come up with one." So this is one of the topics that we were actually discussing on the live stream last night about creatures and vehicles and things like that, and Chris from Bantha Skull made a very good point, and it really often comes down to the retailers and what they want and what they're happy to put on their shelves, and maybe vehicles and creatures are just a bit of a hard sell at the moment. I don't know. They take up a bit more space on the shelf and often go to clearance. So fingers crossed for a blurg. I'm pretty sure Hasbro knows that everybody wants that blurg, especially in the 3.75 inch scale. It's just about how they put that out in retail and how it all works, and as I say, fingers crossed that it will happen. Martin Fudge says, "Lots of great questions as always. Question for next week. Do you think removing the upcoming Razor Crest and displaying it will significantly reduce its value? I won't bother opening the figures, but I'm keen to see what's in the box. Thoughts, please." So I think, like with anything, once you open something, the value instantly decreases. But I think with the Razor Crest, man, I think you need to open that thing. It's going to be glorious. You don't want to keep that thing in the box. You need to open it, and yep, the value will decrease. But saying that, I think even if it's open, you know, if you were careful and put it back in the box, it would still keep its value. But absolutely, with anything, you know, when it's mint in sealed box, it's always going to be more value than if you've opened it. Matt's Collection says, "Hey Tim, great episode. Glad to hear your family's doing well. Question for next week. What would you like to see in future deluxe figure offerings in the Vintage Collection, and why is it the Hutt Twins 2-pack? Yeah, the Hutt Twins, they're pretty cool, aren't they? The thing is with them, I think they're going to be a little bit too big for a deluxe pack. They're going to be, you know, under sort of the creature line, and as I mentioned just now with the blurg, you know, are we going to be able to get those twins? I really don't know. But in terms of deluxe offerings like this one, the Maldo Crease, I think a pretty good one of that would be the Frog Lady with her jar and all the little eggs and things like that. That might make a decent deluxe pack. And then, of course, if we're still talking about the Mandalorian, I think maybe Luke Skywalker and R2-D2 and Grogu would be a pretty cool deluxe pack if that was to ever be a thing. I don't know, but, you know, I'm pretty sure that that's something that most collectors would want. If not, just the Luke Skywalker on its own would be pretty cool. But yeah, deluxe packs, I don't think... I think the two twins, the Hutt twins, would be a little bit too big for that kind of thing, even in those other boxes that we've seen that are coming out. Mighty Makoko says, question for next week, do you think we'll get at least one wave of 6 or 7 characters from the Book of Boba Fett for the retro collection? I'm not 100% sure about that. I can't even remember. Did I hear a rumour that this year we would be getting that, a Book of Boba Fett wave? I know we're getting a wave 2 of The Mandalorian. That's already been revealed with Bo-Katan and things like that. If they were to do a wave of Book of Boba Fett, I think we'd need to see some more of the episodes to work out which characters could be in that. Black Chrysanthemum would be one. Boba Fett, Fennec Shand would be the obvious ones to begin with. But then, you know, I think we need to see more of the show to work out who could be in that wave. But I can't really remember if I heard a rumour if that was the case. But I don't think it'll be Return of the Jedi, because I think we'll have to wait for 2023 for that wave. I think it's gone too far now, and they're doing new media, so let's wait and see what happens this year. JWT question for next week: do you think we'll ever get an Empire Strikes Back TIE bomber in the vintage collection? Also love your content, keep up the great work, mate. Thank you, JWT, appreciate that, my friend. The TIE bomber, I don't think so. You know, we're lucky to get any vehicles at the moment in the vintage collection, and to get something as niche as that from the Empire Strikes Back, I don't think so. I think if we get any vehicles at all, it's going to be from the new media, speeder bikes perhaps, Moff Gideon's TIE Fighter maybe, something from the Book of Boba Fett, I don't know. But yeah, that's quite a niche one, isn't it? The TIE bomber from Empire Strikes Back. Not saying that I wouldn't like it, I would absolutely love it, of course, as well as Darth Vader's TIE Fighter, which I've mentioned previously. But yeah, I don't think we will, mate. Sean Thompson says, question for next week: do you think Hasbro will ever start releasing mass amounts of vintage collection quality figures again like they did for the prequels? I remember being able to walk into the likes of Asda, Tesco, Toys R Us, which usually had an amazing range of figures, and it would be great to see that again instead of the small 4-figure waves we seem to be getting. All the best. Well, to be honest, I think in your question you've kind of answered it when you mention Asda, Tesco, Toys R Us. Toys R Us doesn't exist anymore, and Asda and Tesco very rarely stock toys, do they? So I think without those major retail partners, these bigger waves of figures just is a thing of the past. If you look at somewhere like Forbidden Planet now, they do have a really good range of vintage collection figures from the last few waves and the exclusives and things like that. Really good range of figures, as I say. Having said that, the waves have increased. I think we're looking at 5-6 figures now in each wave for 2022. Whereas in 2020 and 2021, we were getting those 4-figure waves. So yeah, 6 figures in a wave now, or 5 and a deluxe maybe. So things are getting there, but yeah, I can't see it going back to those days where we just get loads and loads of figures. David Stevens says, hi Tim, love to the family. Question for next week: what are the chances that we'll get a deluxe vintage collection Book of Boba Fett Biker Gang box set? And more importantly, would you want one? Keep up the amazing work. Now, I've got to say that part of episode 3 was the most disappointing for me. I think it was a bit jarring. It didn't really sit within Tatooine, if that makes sense. Those sort of flashy bikes, they reminded me of mobility scooters or Vespas, cross between the two, and yeah, I didn't like them. And I think if you were to ask me which figures would you least want from the Book of Boba Fett, it would be that gang. They didn't really float my boat, so no, I don't. I'm not really going to be asking Hasbro anytime soon for those. Christopher Barton says, great episode, boss. Question for next week: do you think Hasbro will produce a vintage collection Black Chrysanthemum on a Book of Boba Fett card back within the year? Love what you do for the collecting community. Keep it up. I think we will get a Black Chrysanthemum on a vintage collection card. I just don't think it will be this year. I think in terms of the main line, we pretty much know most of them, apart from maybe the final wave of figures. If you go on yakface.com, you can pretty much see what's coming out for this year. So I think we'll probably have to wait until next year for the Black Chrysanthemum, but I think it'll be one of those ones that will be worth the wait. I think they'll do a really good job on that figure. So fingers crossed, and can't wait for that one. Daniel Rhodes says, do you feel we should have gotten a Boba Fett in his robes on the Mandalorian card prior to getting a Boba Fett figure on the Book of Boba Fett cards? The same with Fennec Shand. There's two ways of looking at this. If you look at the Black Series, they've got that figure, haven't they? They've got the Nomad Boba Fett. And then they've got this other Boba Fett, which is kind of like at the end of The Mandalorian with his sort of baggy trousers. But they've put it in a Book of Boba Fett box. Now, I much prefer what they're doing in the Vintage Collection, where we are getting the true Book of Boba Fett armor, albeit in that deluxe box and not on its own card. I think Fennec Shand could have easily been on a Mandalorian card, and I would even suspect that at some point they planned for it to be that way, but then maybe it got so late in the day that they thought, well, let's just promote the Book of Boba Fett with that figure on that card back. You know, Fennec Shand hasn't changed at all, so she could have easily been on either card. But I think in the future that I would like to see a Boba Fett on a Mandalorian card in his Nomad outfit. But I'm not as desperate for that figure now, because we do have a lot of figures from the Mandalorian, and I want them to look forward and bring out new stuff. So Book of Boba Fett and or Kenobi is the way to go this year. Chris Curran says, after watching your review of the Rebel Fleet Trooper pack, I am disappointed that I didn't get one. Do you think that they will package Captain Antilles on his own card back? So here they are, the Rebel Fleet Trooper pack, which I'm really, really happy with. Check out that review. It is on the channel. I'll leave a card link thing up there for you to click on when this video is finished. And yes, I think it's entirely possible that they would do that. I think it would be a good one to get out on a Star Wars card back. And to be honest, you know, Hasbro don't usually waste things, do they? You know, they don't usually release things once and then that's it. They like to get their money worth, and I think most people would want that figure on a Vintage Collection card back. I don't see why not, and yeah, I'd certainly buy it. Zil1543 says, question or observation for next week. Do you think Hasbro wasn't made aware the Rancor was going to feature in the Book of Boba Fett when they started the debacle of the HasLab project? I 100% disagree with their crowdfunding model, but surely someone from Disney and Lucasfilm would give them a heads up to postpone a few weeks to maximise the opportunity to appeal to both OT and new media with the appearance of the Rancor that I predict Boba Fett will ride into battle in the season finale. So you make some good points there, and of course, you know, you would think that that would be the case. I'm not really too sure what happened with the whole HasLab Rancor thing, but you know, we do know that they originally slipped up with the announcement of it. Did that bring it forward slightly, that they thought they had to get that out? Because it's kind of clashed with other HasLabs as well, didn't it? And you're right, the Rancor is now in the Book of Boba Fett, spoiler alert. So would it have funded? And I think it possibly would have done. I think even without it being in the Book of Boba Fett, if you'd added a couple of hours onto the time that it ended, I think they would have, you know, just crept over the line anyway. But it ended when it did, and it didn't back. I don't think they'll open it up again, because now the Rancor has been in the Book of Boba Fett, and also it's a different Rancor. I know that might seem a bit weird, but it is a different Rancor. But the fact that a Rancor has been in the Book of Boba Fett would have probably piqued a lot of people's interest, and that thing would have got over the line. But I think Disney and Lucasfilm are in constant contact with Hasbro, so I don't think that was the case, that something was missed there. I just think maybe the whole timing of that Rancor thing was bad, and you know, the whole campaign was pretty bad in the end, wasn't it? So, and Rob Earnest says, question for next week, spoiler alert involving the Book of Boba Fett episode 3. After HasLab's epic failure of the Black Series Rancor, do you see a possibility for there being a Vintage Collection Rancor HasLab project based on the Book of Boba Fett? And where do you see the future of HasLab with Star Wars projects? So yeah, it all depends on what happens with that Rancor in the show. You know, just at the moment you've seen him asleep on the floor. If he features heavily in the final episodes, and you know, Boba Fett starts riding him around and destroying things, and he's a massive hit, then at the end of the day you could potentially see him being released in some shape or form in the Vintage Collection in the next year or so. Whether that be a HasLab project is another matter. Maybe they could sort of resculpt the one that we've already had from the Black Series 3.75, and before that the Legacy Collection, I think it was. Maybe give him some articulation on his wrists or something like that. Maybe it doesn't need to be a HasLab for the Vintage Collection. JDog UK says, question for next week. Hi Bossk, Happy New Year to you, mate. Have you heard anything about a potential Dark Trooper or Luke release from the Mandalorian, either Vintage Collection or the Black Series? Have been really looking forward to adding the Dark Trooper to my Mandalorian shelf for some time, but so far I've heard nothing about any upcoming release. Many thanks for the great content. So I can't say that I've heard anything about either of those figures, but I would think that both of those, or certainly the Dark Trooper, would be a obvious release for the Vintage Collection. I'm sure we'll get a Dark Trooper at some stage in the future. I mean, once they've released that figure as a single release, you could pretty much see that they would do a 4-pack, wouldn't you? You know, who wouldn't want to army build the Dark Trooper in a set like that? But I'm pretty sure that they'd want to get their money's worth with the sculpt first of all by putting it out on a single release or a deluxe pack or something. I don't know, but I don't think we're going to have to wait too long for a Dark Trooper. I think that's an obvious one in both scales. Alright then guys, that's it for this week's episode. If you do have a question for next week's episode, please remember to leave it in the comment section below. I love doing this series, let's keep it going. Thank you so much to my Patreon supporters and channel members. Your support is greatly appreciated. It helps out the channel a great deal. Thank you all so much for watching, and we shall see you on the next one.